I would love to see that entrepreneurship, by its definition, would incorporate the qualities of business or the qualities of organizations or the qualities of any kind of organized events or activities would include in their primary descriptives impact and a few kinds of impact: social impact, environmental impact, and then more precisely, I would be looking, if we look at the social impact, what would be the impact to the well-being, to flourishing, to the quality of life, and to the social nature or the social fabric by definition. And then that would be what's related with the human beings and their states of well-being and then mental, let's say, flourishing. And then the other part would be about environmental impact, where we have the footprint to the earth, all the emissions to the sky and clouds and air, and all other kinds of byproducts of entrepreneurship and the companies that are not always benefiting to the natural life cycle that we have on the planet. So those would be the two major areas, and my expectation that every single entrepreneurship would have those integrated in their business plan, into their balance sheet. It's growing the same as it's growing an industry related with the mindfulness, with meditation, with consciousness is growing for individuals. And then the same way is growing the industry related with trainings and practices for businesses and for trainers and educators with regard to the social innovation, social entrepreneurship. What I do in my masterclasses, I do teach people to work with human change and sustainable human change, which I call transformation. And then I really pull in the scientific knowledge, and then I make it hands-on, applicable to the real behavioral challenges in the organizations. And why I'm speaking about that is because if we look at any change in the world, any change in every single individual organization, predominantly the remaining barriers are human beings and their decisions, because technologies will be following what the people are making as a decision, how to build the software, how to build the robots. So therefore, increasing capacity of people being the drivers of the change, starting from the inner change and becoming the leaders of the change, that would be naturally then mirroring out to their colleagues or their followers or their co-workers in their organization, in their teams, and also then publicly, societally, is the essence. So therefore, if the question is, what would be the key ingredients of the ideal program for the social entrepreneurship and innovation? Predominantly, I would vote for ability for people to learn how to make change happen, starting from themselves and then applying the same understanding, wisdom to their activities with other people, within their business context, within their entrepreneurship, and within creating innovations. So I think that's number one. And instead of people being reactive and following circumstances, following changes in the marketplace, changes global pandemic, changes something else, changes taxation. No, you in this program have to become the invincible leader of the change from within, and then abilities to master the change also around you. I believe if people are equipped and they are educated and trained, and what I call in my work, they have the enabled transformation gene, which implies they know how to master transformation and change internally and externally, then with that mindset, with that vision of power that they have, they would be creating wonderful entrepreneurship possibilities and innovations. And because they would be driven by the energy of they can change anything they want, and if they have the good ethical stance, then we would be having marvelous innovations and entrepreneurship. It's just, if we look at those startup activities or the young entrepreneurship, that's oftentimes very damaged by the old historical ways of thinking about business, and then not understanding what the money is, not understanding what the meaning of the business itself is, which I oftentimes speak with my students at the business school. So therefore, I would say once we empower people with this wisdom of change, then they would be so much more open and, let's say, fueled with possibilities to create something more meaningful for people, value for the societies, and with a good impact or positive footprint on the planet. So that's what I mean. Because I really think that entrepreneurship innovation is an outcome, and that outcome can be determined by the abilities of the creators. And if the creators are well tuned and well trained, making these changes with a positive mindset and with this agency of being the drivers of the change, then the miracles can be done. So what would empower people to become the leaders of change? I think first thing to do is to demystify what it means, the transformation. And while people oftentimes think about change as being difficult, challenging, impossible, I don't know, never did it before, so why should I succeed in this? So therefore, I try to simplify, and this is one of the scientific methods. So you get to the core elements, and what I usually show to other people in my master classes is transformation in its essence is as simple as this. People have one thought that directs their behavior and choices. That can be with a business, that can be what money is, that can be what I am or what my business should be. And if that is the barrier, that the thought that people think every day, and they make decisions and actions according to the thought. And if that thought is the problem, transformation in its essence is replacing it with another thought. And the importance in this transformation is the devil is in the details. So in this transformation, it is essentially important that the blue pen is the old thought and the white box for the earphones is the new thought, and they have to be exactly opposite. Why? Because if they're not, they can live together here and they can do competition and they can drain the person's energy. And what people usually do, they give up and they remain with the old one because that's more habitual. So therefore, a simple, practical understanding about the transformation in the essence is the initial point for people to realize about the existence of their transformation gene and activating it. And this is what I do, starting from this kind of a simple reflection and conceptualization of the transformation, and then going deeper into the scientific long science that supports tools in my framework. So there is a transformation design framework, and there are multiple layers, layer after layer, that I have been practicing also with companies and giving these out. And they are available on the website as well. I really believe that the major part that contributes to the success of anything, including social innovation and entrepreneurship, is how well people are ready to do their inner transformations that would enable them to do the entrepreneurship and the creation and building the teams. So therefore, although we would like to rush very quickly, okay, the person thinks I cannot do social innovation, and then, okay, I can do social innovation, and then the person just goes and runs. Unfortunately, this is not the way how changes usually sustain themselves. So therefore, there are other tools that are making more discipline for these changes to continue. So I can show you this one. This is very brief. It's about the vectoral transformation. So if the people decided, I'm going to do a social entrepreneurship, and that means I'm going to, first of all, think about the idea, we'll create a team, I will make accessible resources, I will build partnerships, and I will move myself and the team towards this target. So I will have the business which will be very socially responsible and also bringing value to the people. So therefore, every single decision that person is making has to be on this green vector. So that's a straight line with an arrow to achieve the state of mind and reality that the person wants. Why these yellow and red are here is because there will be tempting moments to make a decision which is not that related with a positive impact to the planet, or not that well with a social responsibility. And those should be located here. So it would be kind of social entrepreneurship, but with a bad impact on the environment, or the bad impact to, I don't know, some special social group around that place. And the same goes with red. So it's even more away from where you want to go. And if this is put onto the desk, onto the desktop for that person, it's a reminder, it's a clear reminder. Anytime you make a decision away from the green vector, you will never get to where you want. So that's another tool that I usually give out for people to get themselves the changes to be sustained over a longer period of time. People usually need team, and that's obvious. And then it's about engaging other people that would be like-minded. And again, we immediately arrive to the same point, how these other teammates would perceive and handle change. Would they be equipped with this knowledge and wisdom to integrate with the mindset of the leader? When the leader is currently empowered and shining this leadership of the, oh, we are, like, I'm the driver of the change and you can be the driver of the change as well. But still, the leader would be not only mirroring that, but also would be required to give a proper training himself or herself, or possibly through the educational setting, through the masterclass, so that other people would be getting the basics of managing change and getting the masters of transformation. And then they would be, as a team, would be much more aligned and empowered, rather than a leader with a great vision and very strong mastery of change, and then others as a professionals, of course. But then if they wouldn't be at a similar level of consciousness towards the change, they would still be not empowering the teamwork to the degree. Instead, if everyone would be empowered with the wisdom of change. Education in general is a basic thing. We learn new things. And then the next, which is sometimes missing, is integrating those new lessons into the everyday practices. And the only barrier between the knowledge and integration is here. So people return from the training. Oh, this was a nice 2-day experience. This is a nice book. Oh, leather cover, very nice. I did this all marks and the notes and everything, and I will put it on a shelf for the day when I will need it, which never comes. So therefore, the major cause or the damage for any education to be integrated, again, it comes down to the same basic thing that I'm teaching about, how to make the change happen. So after the education for the public institution, or for the governance, or for possibly less agile organization, or habitually or historically, it will be the question how we can empower them to be better integrators of the new education and the new training. So there are these components: knowledge, integration, and then it all is supported by the ability to perceive changes, master changes, and becoming the leaders of the change. Here we come to tool number 4 in my design framework. It's called circles. Why it's so important? Because it says, whenever we look at existing company or existing organization or department or the group of people, predominantly we will be able to separate 3 groups, 3 subgroups. There will be green people that are already, in our case, thinking about social innovation, entrepreneurship. Okay, what's the impact of my activities and decisions on the other people and the planet? And then will be red people, which is the other end, which is say, this is nonsense. It doesn't have anything to do with the finance results. This is just a waste of time. We will speak about this things with you. And then there are these yellow people. They say, well, but the businesses have been evolving with this natural financial KPIs as the predominant ones. And why do we need to include, well, we could include also this KPI related with the social benefit and innovation that would be more friendlier. But in reality, we are asked to only deliver the profit margin. And they will be kind of like hesitant somewhere in between. They are not red and green. So therefore, what I'm saying by this, if we are having green people, that's great. If we are having the remaining part, which is still separate, there's a yellow which says it's nice, but I don't do it, and the red says, oh, I will never do it. So why I'm saying this? Because the red people shouldn't be the target, because they mentally are against it, which means they are the hardest part and the biggest waste of time, because you cannot be sure that they will change their minds for whatever you do, even with the old-fashioned ways of promising there's some benefits or threatening with a punishment. They might just comply for the period of those two elements, but it's just not the suggestible to start. So why don't we start with the yellow people? They already say it's a good idea, but they don't have this practice. So what I'm saying is using the green people as the positive example, so that they would empower and encourage and ignite the yellow people to gravitate towards the green people. Therefore, we don't need to push against the red people. It's just a waste of time. Instead, let's be mindful using the power of nature, which means social influence. And social influence means once the yellow people will see the green more clearly, they will be gravitating naturally. This is how individuals constantly look at others, and they are influenced by that. How others behave, how others dress, how others use computers, how they write emails. We constantly, that's our inner fabric, of our social fabric. So therefore, we don't need to change everyone. We need to help those who are already positively thinking but not acting. So this is the starting point to start these transformations. If we have red management from this philosophy, so we have the top management in a company with red perception towards social responsibility or social innovation or environmentally friendly business mindset. But in a company, there might be mid-management, there might be other department leaders, or just very energetic young experts working. What they can do, they can use the same essential, powerful ingredient of influence, which is social influence. And in this case, not about direct social influence as comparing themselves as being very proactive towards social entrepreneurship against the red-minded top management that would be more historically kind of old-fashioned in this sense. Instead of that, not to go into the conflict, that doesn't produce any good result for anyone. There is another layer of social influence. It's about comparing companies. So there would be companies on the market in a similar industry, with a similar size, with a similar activities, that are socially minded businesses. And then if there is a market scan and the person that is in the company with the red management is kind of in the discussions, in the conversations, into the meetings, just reflecting on what's happening in the market. And then if it turns out that there are, with 100% of the companies, similar size, same market industry, and there would be 65% of those similar companies being socially minded and eco-friendly by their ways of their running business, that would be a big question to the red management. Oh, we are minority here. The major companies have already transformed. And even if it's followed by the bigger or greater financial returns or customer engagement or the growth, which would be naturally associated with this transformation towards how they run the business, then that would be directly speaking to the red top management. Of course, if the people are really red at the very red end, they would say, I don't care, and then the game is over. But if they're becoming a slightly orange or they're yellow, then they would be looking at the other companies and getting the social influence, not looking at other people, but looking at the other companies and comparing themselves and their performance with the others. Making things and the world transparent, specifically within the context of the topic. If the discourse is about the social entrepreneurship, the business performance related with the impact to the world and to the social well-being or the social component, then within that spectrum, if there could be highlighted what's happening with other companies, and if there could be projected the correlation between how they transform towards greener and the greener companies have improved KPIs, regardless of that they have shifted from the old-fashioned to the new-fashioned, and that might even bring more value to them in so many ways. That transparency is really mind-opening for the old-fashioned businesses. We human beings constantly observe everything around us. That's by our nature, and based on the new information and the changes in the information that we perceive and receive, we constantly shift our decisions. Sometimes not that quickly, but that's the basic pattern that we human beings have. We make thousands of decisions every day, and among those, we are gradually reconsidering some of our decision-making patterns based on the incoming information. And if that incoming information is tailored and specifically designed to hit particular decision-making algorithms, then it works faster. I really believe that we have arrived to the tipping point where we have built so many great technologies and so many great businesses around the great technologies that more people realize that if we are not building our businesses and technologies mindfully and purposefully for our own good in the long term, then we get into the large trouble. And that's mostly related with the health problems, with the like decreased attention span and technology hijacking our lives. And all of these side effects of the previously built businesses and technologies is now reminding who we really are and what's really important for us, because we cannot live in the constant stress, because we burn out and it all goes to waste, and also it also sometimes ripples to the societies. So therefore, we currently, I would expect, would be naturally disrupting the notion of business. While previously the notion of business or entrepreneurship or innovation was about, to some degree, it was about creating value for the market, but there was a lot of businesses and innovations that were not about creating value for the end users. It was about taking the values away from the end users to get some benefits from the entrepreneurs. And because the nature on the planet, the human nature and the nature around, is designed to survive, and they have these natural selective processes, I really believe the next big disruptive thing that will happen is, because the nature will push back through the individual saying, I'm not going to do this particular business because this is bad for the people over there, or for people over there, or for the planet over there. And because they realized if they make the decision against other people or against the planet, it will come back sooner or later in a form of anxiety, in a form of depression, in a form of something unpleasant. So therefore, disruptiveness will be fueled and really energized by our natural states, which is we are constantly seeking for happiness and fulfillment. And once we got into the realization this entrepreneurship is not about that, or not fully for everyone about that, then people will start rejecting that and will be gravitating towards entrepreneurs that are more appealing and encouraging and empowering in their visions that would be encompassing everyone and everyone's happiness and well-being, while they are delivering the value for a particular market and a particular need of particular people. It's just a question of time, and the time determines the pace or acceleration depends on the resistance. Certainly, we also humans have the natural ways of keeping our habits or sticking with our habits, although they're bad. and we cannot overcome that. So therefore, the work on the transformation science and practice is important accelerator. But it's gonna happen. The nature will push back onto the businesses that are not friendly, and will take back to where it makes sense for everybody gradually. And then, yes, the question about resistance, how long it's gonna stay. We can now use the digital tools for education because it's so easy and so accessible. Watching videos online, we don't even speak about it anymore. So that's normal. So people want to learn something, they go digital immediately. So we have skipped that part. Then besides communicating the essence, the knowledge, the wisdom itself, what can be done with the digital technology? It can be designed with intention to keep people going the way. So what I mean by that, the social influence that I explained earlier, which is about showing positive other people, getting further down the educational path, going more courses into the same program, or actively repeating or coming back, which is all about retention. There could be specific design elements that could be complemented to that particular online program, which shows how many people are watching now, how many people watched yesterday, how many people actually done the homework, how many people have gotten the good grades to that assessment. And that social dynamic, which is overlaid on the primary content. The primary content doesn't change. But then technology, the digital, enables all of these tiny design experiences, which are subtle, but they are very powerful because of the same nature how we react to other people. And technology digitally can not show the faces necessarily, but can change the color, can kind of show up something about the activity of other people, and that will keep the others being more engaged. As we love to play somewhere outside if there are other people playing. We don't like to play alone too much. And that's the other digital superpower we can always apply to the education and training online. If we compare digital training to physical training, there are two components. One component is what actually we miss into the digital form that we have in a physical form. And obviously we can feel it because most of us have been in a physical training and we have watched some digital training. There is some parts that we're missing. Very obviously, the physical touch, the hear, the full kind of observation of the gestures and dynamic, and sometimes even some physical components of the environment and the room and the sound can be helping or doing the opposite in a physical setting. That's gonna be missed, but is the question, what's the percentage of the whole experience is that? And this is where I point out that people just habitually stick to this idea, oh, I will miss this opportunity to come in the break to the teacher and ask this question that I usually was afraid to ask publicly, and that was the chance. But in the digital, you still have the separate room where you can go and ask this question. So therefore, there are these experiences that are designed in a digital training that are available, but people are not aware of this. And that's why it's the natural resistance. It's say, I'm not sure I'm going to have the same thing. They are not sure, but instead of saying, I'm not sure I'm going to have the same experience, they say, it's not the same, and full stop. And this is exactly this thing. They say, digital is different. It is different, so you're right. But then, is digital bad? No, digital is different, but it has also the other benefits. So you can immediately be in a class with the people from different parts of the world that will be contributing to the discussion, much more insightful experiences and their stories. So therefore, I would say it's another change.